Hey guys, welcome to the Rusty Beauty's Garage. We are on the 66 GT6 again, and in the opening of the previous episode I said that it was going to be the last episode, but turned out that we have a little bit more work than what I expected, so there's another episode, a bonus one. So what we've done in the last episode is we cleaned up the floor of the car and we painted it so it looks great now, and we can put it back on the frame. But before we do that, we have a few little things that we have to do. We need to clean up all these parts here, paint them and install them at the bottom of the car. But also here, before the frame can take the body, we need to deal with this rotten out trigger here. The other one looks better. Anyways, so this whole part here is rotten from underneath. It's detached from the frame there, and this part as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna replace the bottom half only of this. We're gonna just cut it here, and we're gonna replace the bottom part of this and this whole entire piece probably, or at least half of it, because it looks like the top end is good. Here though we have an extra line that we figured out before. So you see here where it's cut, that's the brake line. So the brake line has been replaced, and the old one is still here. So you can see the end here, and the other end here. So we're gonna remove that, I guess, because it's not needed there. And we're gonna clean up a little bit here, and we're gonna go from there. Look here, there's another broken bolt here. I thought that only the one in the back was broken, but this one is broken too. So we're gonna have to remove that. And once all this is done, we're gonna put the body on the frame, even though, I don't know, I think it's gonna have to be removed. I think the owner is gonna have to remove it again to clean the frame and all that. But that's up to him. It's gonna be just a few bolts, and he could remove it easily if he desires to. But it's gonna be much easier for transportation and everything if the body is on the frame, right? So we're gonna do that. Well, in most of the places, this was held by a wire, so I'm just gonna keep the wire there. There's only one clamp right here that is still where it's supposed to be. So that's how it's supposed to be everywhere, but fortunately the clamps are broken, so I'm just gonna put it back with the wires, and that's from me. Alright, so now let's clean this up a little bit and see how we're gonna approach that. Okay, this is pretty bent here. Can't straighten it much. Let's try something else. Wow. Can't straighten it, which is good because it means that the metal is solid. But hey, don't jack your car on the out triggers. It's not safe. Okay. Yeah, this is what it is. It doesn't need to be straight here. Here it's where it's important, so we can weld the new piece there. And try to straighten this here. It's not too bad. It just has this hump in the middle, but whatever. Alright, well, I think it's time to start cutting the rust and see what we're gonna expose. I'm gonna replace most of this so it ends here without any flange or anything. Okay, let me cut a little bit of it and we're gonna go from there. Now, it's important to clean up the frame here underneath and make sure that there's no rusty hole there, because that's oh, I think there is. Okay, I'll clean it up. All right. Well, we have an issue here. Too bad. Okay. Without further ado, let's cut it off and replace it. So we're gonna cut a square like this with a little corner, I guess, here. And we're gonna replace this, and then we're gonna rebuild the outrigger. Again, as usual on this car, everything is a lot more than what I anticipate. Like, we are almost at the end here. And again, I thought it was only the outrigger. Turns out that there is more. Whatever, let's fix it. All right, I made all the patches that we needed and I painted the back. And this one, I didn't have enough material, so I had to extend it a little bit, but it's fine. So what I'm using actually is this leftover from the Miyata piece, which is like pretty heavy metal. I think it's 16 gauge, because first of all, we don't have any more of the 18 gauge that we had before, and second, it needs to be more solid. So this is pretty solid metal here, you see. So let me show you what I've done here. So I cut this out and I rust converted wherever I could. So for here, I made this patch. It's like that. And we're gonna weld it there. Then we're gonna weld this other piece for underneath, and then the last piece that comes here. What amazes me is that these pieces, this one and this one, they don't have a flange. I would expect to have a flange coming out, let's say, and to be welded like this. Anyways, it just ends here and it's welded. So we're gonna do the same thing, and that's it. So I'm gonna start welding them now, and I'll show you some progress because there's no room here for all of us. All right, so this is welded, and now it's time to weld this one, which comes like this, and it overlaps the frame over there, so we can weld it around. But before we put it on, I'm just gonna paint here inside now and here, because they're gonna overlap, right? The back of this is painted, so we just need to paint the back of this, but I'm gonna wait for it to cool down a little. All right, so this is welded as well, and down there underneath, that's not fun, welding here, but it's welded, and here on the outside, so it looks good. Now, before I add the last piece though, I'm gonna try to remove this snapped bolt, because if this nut inside the captive nut, if it snaps, then we're gonna have trouble. We can't take it out, we can put another one from underneath. Now we can still do something, not that we can do much, but at least we can take out this one and maybe put the other one and see. Anyways, first of all, I'm gonna try to remove this, and then we're gonna continue with the welding. Well, this spacer, which I think is an aluminum spacer, doesn't come off because the bolt is seized to it. But what I did was I tried with these pliers and it came loose. So now I can actually undo it. So that's great. I thought I was gonna have to weld something to the bolt or whatever. Well, it welded itself to the washer. How long is this bolt? Oh, there you go. That's weird. Anyways, yeah, that's aluminum spacer. So we have to take out this bolt so we can use the spacer again. And now we can put the last part here, which we have to reshape a little bit because I couldn't make it exact before because this was missing. Anyways, we're gonna weld it here and we're gonna do some plug welds and we're gonna be done with that. Yay! All right, this piece is welded in place too and plug welded underneath. and everything is painted, and I even added this piece of tubing here because it needs to be, this is like a spacer here, because the body mount here is a long bolt that has a nut underneath. So, and of course it would crash the frame as it did. So anyway, I think this repair looks good. And the last thing that I want to do before I put the body on the frame, well, I'm lying, it's not the last, but the last thing that I need to do on the frame before I put the body is this. We have to remove this snap bolt from here and then clean these up and paint them, and that's gonna be it for today because it's late. So tomorrow is the day when we're gonna put the body on the frame, the doors that are sitting there, the hatch and the bonnet, and then that's gonna be it for us. Anyway, but we still have work to do on it though, so let's keep crack-a-lacking here. Hopefully that gave it enough heat. Don't tell me it's gonna snap now. How did it snap? What? Wow. Okay, and that, my friends, was officially the last welding on this car. I'm not doing any more. We're done. All right, so it's the next day and I have these cleaned and painted since last night. I also found 5 more shims and I went and I watched my old video and I figured that we actually have 5 shims on each side of the radius arm. So anyways, these are painted and I was just looking at the frame. I went and I watched again my old video to make sure that I know exactly what shims and what rubber washers I need to put here for the body mounts, and I found out that that's how it was. I had a shim there, rubber washers here and here. This one is missing. I lost it. I'm sure I had it because you can see the mark. Like we had rubber washers here, unless this one was missing. Maybe this one was here and this one was missing, but we had one here. So anyways, there must be 4 rubber washers here for sure, and we only had shims up there. So I cleaned up the shims and I got some rubber washers here, or rubber pads or whatever you want to call them. And I'm thinking, well, why wasn't there rubber here? I don't think that's a good thing. And here and even over the shim, I think there must be some rubber protection between the body and the shim. So what I'm thinking is I have enough rubber washers here and I'm gonna put everywhere. I'm gonna get rid of these and I'm gonna put everywhere, even on top of the shims. Or I can just find thin ones. Yeah, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use a thick one and a thin one in these 4 locations, and then I'm gonna use a very thin one on all the other locations, including over the shims. Yeah, that's gonna be better. Okay, we figured it out. All right, so I got a whole bunch of thinner washers. These are like, I don't know, less than an 8, I guess. So this is the original configuration, how it came. I don't know if that's how it should be, but that's how it came. And that's how I worked on the bodywork. You know, it's important to put it in the same position as we had it when we were fixing floors and door gaps and all that. This is like pretty solid body because it has the roof of a GT6, but if it is a convertible car, then it is a big problem if you change the configuration of the shims compared to what it was when you were doing the metal work, floors especially, and seals. So I've done my work on this body and all my gaps and everything with this configuration. 2 shims here, 2 shims there, and 4 rubber pads here. So now I'm just gonna add one of these thin washers everywhere. There are 14 locations. So I'm gonna add one of these washers everywhere, which is gonna bring it an 8 or whatever higher, but it's gonna be the same configuration. So here it becomes a little bit thicker. You see we have a thick and a thin washer in these 4 locations. These are gonna stay, but I don't know how these are gonna stay, but we're gonna have to relocate them if we have to. Anyways, so I know that many of you are gonna say, why didn't you clean up the frame before that? Well, I was contracted to do the metal work, and that is done. Like I said, the owner is taking from here. So I'm just assuming that he's gonna take the body off again, and he's gonna deal with that, but it's up to him whether he wanna do it or not. I'm just gonna do it the proper way with rubber bushings and everything, and if he wants to take the body out, he's gonna have everything that he needs to put it back on. I don't have all the body mounts though, because some of them snapped. As you know, the 2 here and here were totally gone. That one was snapped. These 2 and these 2 I think I have. These here I think I have. And the ones on the back, one snapped, one didn't. But I have whatever survived, and I'm gonna use these, and I'll see if I can find some bolts for the rest. Yeah, when we get to the bolts, I'm gonna explain a little bit more about the length of each bolt. So that's it for the frame, I believe. Now let me prepare the body for landing. All right, I think we are in a good shape now to start fitting the body on the frame. I mean, on the body we have the e-brake installed, we have the brackets for the radius arms installed, both sides, and I put these rubber caps back on that cross member. Everything else can be put from inside. I don't have new ones, so I had to use the old ones that came from there. They're pretty good. I mean, have a little rip, but that's what I have. Everything else, like the ones here, for example, and there's no more ones there. I eliminated these, but the ones in the trunk and everywhere, these can be added later. What's left here now is to drop the body down on the right side up. The frame is over there, and we can marry them again. It's tight here, but as you know, I have already the next project in the garage, which is sitting over there, so I can't use that space, and it's raining outside, so I don't want to take it out in the rain. We have to work here. I think we have more than enough room, so we have to drop this down and hook it up with the engine crane. Now the thing is, I don't want to put back the 2x4 here, so I just need to figure out a way to drop this down carefully, because now this is moving back and forth, you see. Actually the weight, look, the weight is not even on it right now, but the problem is that when I start dropping it, the weight is gonna come to it. So I need to figure out a way to secure it there. Well, I had no choice. I think that was the easiest way. I'm gonna have to remove it after. So I put back the 2x4 and I screwed this to it as it was. I'm not gonna put the other wing though. I'm just gonna drop it down, and as I'm dropping it down, I'm gonna put the stool down here because there's no point of it. So yeah, let's get crack-a-lacking. All right, she's not all the way down yet. She's still moving. But as you can see how I mounted it, it's gonna drop gradually from the rear end to the front end. And I'd like to start dropping the body mounts inside. I found the bag. It's nice when you mark everything, right? So these are all the body mounts. And like I said, some of them snapped. Some other ones look like this. Anyways, I went and I watched my own video from when I took the body off, and in that video I went over all the hardware and I measured it so I can help other people too, and eventually I help myself now, so because now I can go and see in which location what length of bolts we have. My caliper is all the way inside the house in the office, so I'm just gonna go with this. So I'm gonna measure each and every bolt and I'm gonna put it next to the location where it goes. So this one is 3¼ with 1" length with 1" threads. It goes into this location here on the shelf. 3" with 1" threads goes on the outer hose here on the cross member. 2" with 1" threads goes in the inner on the cross member. 3¼ with 1" threads. I only have one because one was snapped. So this one goes here on the outside. And then I have this 1" which goes on the front in the engine bay. I'll show you later. And the last one is this, which is the next size threads. I think it's 3/8, I'm not sure. That's 1 and 3/4 length with 1 1/4 threads. That's here on the shelf. Okay, so now I'm gonna drop the body a little bit more and I'm gonna try to put this in place. Alright, I need to do something about this one and the other one that is actually missing, so I found these in my parts. I can't find the exact length that we need, so I found these and took one of them and I extended the threads, and now we can cut it shorter and replace this piece of rust. Alright, so we have them all started. These last ones were a little tricky because both the shim and the rubber part fell off from this side. On this side they moved and they weren't lining up, so I had to I hooked up the body here, lifted it up, and I went underneath and I reached and I was able to adjust these and to put these back. So we have all the packing pieces and everything in place. These bolts are there. These there are started. Only here, these are for the seat belts, so these are gonna have to go later. So I might just drop a bolt here or something to keep. We'll see now when I tighten these bolts. Maybe these are gonna get compressed and gonna stay there. But if not, I'm gonna drop a bolt or something inside so they don't fall off the rubber pieces. And yeah, these are in place, these are in place, and the last ones are these in the front here. They are in place. Everything is loose for now, and I'm debating whether to tighten them or not yet. I'm just gonna tighten them. If it is a convertible car, by tightening those bolts everything is gonna change. But like I said, this is a little bit more rigid body because it has the roof, and second, they were tight when I was working on the seals and everything, so they need to go tight. Hopefully everything is gonna come back in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten them, and then we're gonna continue with the bonnet and the doors and the hatch. All right, so she's back in one piece, and taking the body off the frame and putting it back didn't affect anything gap wise. If you look at these gaps, they're just the same as we left them before, rusty. And by the way, I went around and I sprayed primer everywhere where I saw bare metal, all my repairs and stuff, because we don't want to send it on a road trip with bare metal exposed because humidity and stuff. So yeah, she looks good. All gaps look great, just as we left them before. Here as well, everything looks fantastic. So tomorrow I'm gonna bring all the parts from the basement because I have 3 or 4, 5 containers, I don't know how many, with parts that belong to this car, mostly the interior. And I have the glass too. I don't know what we're gonna do with the glass. But anyways, I'm gonna bring everything tomorrow and I'm gonna see how we can fit everything inside the car maybe, so it can be put in a trailer and she can live in one piece. In those containers, I'm gonna find the latch for the hatch, and I'm gonna stow it so we can close the hatch, because now it is like a teenager, doesn't want to go down, it stays up. And oh, here I didn't spray with primer. Okay, I'm gonna prime this as well. Anyways, that's gonna be for today, and tomorrow we're gonna do the conclusion of the video and of the series. All right, so it's the next day and I brought from my basement all the parts that belong to this car. So there are multiple containers, like I said. This one belongs to the owner, though the other ones are mine, so we're gonna have to transfer this inside the car or in boxes or something. I don't know, because there are many things inside. There's also here the moldings, the door panels. This is the headliner that I kept for pattern. The headliner, the door cards. I think all that needs to be rewrapped or replaced completely, I don't know. But anyways, it came with the car, so it's gonna go back with the car. And this is the glass, which is still in my basement. So we will see how the owner is gonna pick this up, because I don't want to put these in the car. And they can't be installed in advance because the car still needs to be painted. So yeah, he's gonna have to figure out a way to pick these up. What's a better place for a gas tank than its own place where it belongs? So I put the gas tank there. I put this is all the carpet, and this is more for the owner, you know. I just want to show him where everything is. So this is all the carpet and all the upholstery that was taken out. So I kept it for a pattern eventually if he needs it. If not, he can throw it in the garbage. Now I'm gonna put those covers that belong here. Then we're gonna put the door panels and stuff on top. And then here I emptied this container, and I'm gonna transfer most of the parts in it and the rest in boxes, I guess. All right, reduced it to this big container, and all these parts here that are in bags, and they're marked. So you see driver's door. What is this? Rear vent windows and stuff like that. So these I'm hoping to fit in these 2 boxes. Here, this is the hatch retainer that I needed so we can close the hatch. The transmission cover I'm gonna put where it belongs. Steering column, there's the steering wheel over there, and all the dash components here. Like, they are not in a great shape, but we don't want to damage them, so we're gonna figure out how to pack them nicely. Oh, and we have a huge box, which is still in my hallway, a huge box with 2 fenders that the owner bought extra. He bought a set with the vents on the side and a set without the vents on the side, so we use the ones without, and he still has the set, the front fenders with the vents. That works. I put the insulation from the ceiling that we removed, and that's gonna cover nicely the dash components, and this can close now. Dun, dun, dun. Perfect. So that's everything, plus the steering wheel. This we're still gonna use here. So now I just need to put everything inside the car. All right, so she's nicely packed finally. I even put the front bumper inside here, like the two boxes, the steering wheel, the steering rack is underneath, the big container, and I installed the retainer here, and the bonnet struts, the chrome moldings for the top of the fenders, front and rear, and the dash, which dash is not in a great shape. It's been already rewrapped once. So anyway, the rear bumpers and the seats the owner took as soon as I took them out, so he can reupholster the seats and clean the rear bumpers, whatever he wanted to do with them. So they are already with him, and that's it. This project is complete now. And as I promised, I want to give you some statistics now. It's not a lot of statistics, I just want to tell you how much time it took me for all the metal work. In total, up to today, since the beginning of the project, I have 421 hours. To be honest, 421 and a half hours into this project. That includes also removing stuff from the car, like stripping it, stripping the interior, stripping the bulkhead here, removing the body, and that is altogether, I believe, if I'm not wrong, that's like 21 hours, I think. It also includes the times that I repaired different things that were not part of the metalwork, like for example, if you remember the alternator bracket I had to do, and there were a few little things that I had to do like that. I don't remember what, but let's say 30 hours out of the 421 and a half are not related to the metal work. Actually, we have to remove the 10 hours that I spent on cleaning and painting the bottom of the body just recently. That was the last video, I believe. So 40 hours. Let's remove 40 hours from the 420, so 380 hours it took me to do all the metal work. So you know that it was pretty cheesy when it came. It didn't show that in the beginning. Remember, when it first came, it was like we could clearly see that there were lots of issues with the car, but I didn't expect that much. So as soon as I started stripping it, that's when I realized that it was a lot. So as you know, when I started working on it, I had a full-time job, so I was working only on weekends and after hours on this car. And I couldn't do much work in the beginning, actually. So the car came in May 2021. I started very briefly working on it. I took the bonnet off, started removing fiberglass from here, from there, and that's when I realized that there was going to be a lot of work on this car. That's when I called the owner and I showed it to him and I said, this is what's going on here. Is it okay? Should we continue? I don't know, what should we do here? And he said, well, we started swimming, we have to keep swimming. So we kept swimming until today. At that time, I broke my leg though. Yeah, and in September, I started working on the car again. So that was June, July, August, let's say 3 months I lost there with my broken leg. Then at the end, I started working on the car again. But what happened was, then I received a notice from my landlord that I need to move out because they were selling the property. So that put me on hold again. So by the time I moved and I settled in this new place, it was already January. So altogether in 2021, probably I worked for a month on this car. A little bit in May and a little bit in September. And when I started in January working on this car, I still had my full-time job, so I was working a little bit on it. And then in March, I quit my full-time job, and then I was able to work more on this car. So that was my main focus. In the meantime, I was working on other projects as well, a little bit here, a little bit there, but this was my main focus from March onward. So 11 months since January. But anyway, so altogether, these 421 and a half hours were spread in more than 18 months. But if we remove all the breaks that I took, it's altogether 12 months, I believe, a year. it is a long time, but there was a lot of work on the car as well. So anyways, I think that's enough statistics, and I know that many of you wanted to see the end of this project, I mean to see a complete car, and to be honest, that was the plan from the very beginning, that I was gonna finish the metal work and then I was gonna put the car together. And we had some brief discussions with the owner, but at this point now he realized that he had way too much money put in this car, and that's it. My labor is not free, unfortunately, or fortunately for me. So he's gonna take over from here, which is fine because, you know, we also have that other project that is sitting there waiting, and I have other cars waiting on the line too for different jobs, so it's fine, we can continue from here. Whether we're gonna see it again on some car shows or not, I have no idea. We will see about that. So anyways, I'm rambling. I really appreciate you guys sticking around, watching, commenting, subscribing, sharing, supporting the channel. That's really highly appreciated, guys. So anyways, stick around because there's more projects coming. As you know, we already started TR4 project. We have the Miata going on with my son every other weekend when he's here. In the other weekends probably I'm going to be working on that car. It is rock solid this time, I'm telling you. I start the work on this car. So many times we said, yeah, I want to start on it, and there's always something else happening. No, this time I have the will and I have the time, and I will start working on it. So stay tuned for that and for many other Rusty beauties. So once again, guys, thank you. Bye.